So Navya, let's start with who has defined you the most.
Oh God.
You know, and I ask you that because there are so many people you could draw inspiration from in your family.
Yeah.
It's an illustrious family. It's a accomplished family. It's a famous family, and on both sides of the family, there has been sort of strong personalities. The most endearing thing I think I read about you recently is that when you were a child, you used to think that the crowds outside outside your family home in Juhu were for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have had a charmed and unusual upbringing.
Yeah.
Who or what has defined you the most?
That's a very hard question to... I don't think
it could be more than one person or one thing.
I don't think one person, because there are so many people that you learn different things from, especially in my family. And I think I've spent so much time with my grandparents growing up, and still do. We all live together, which is, an unusual thing for...
Do you all fight?
Young people. Yeah, I mean, we don't fight. We have very healthy debates on a lot of things, which I think is very important.
Yeah. So is the dining table or a meal time like feisty? Exchanges of opinions?
It's a lot of conversation around things that are relevant today and that matter. And it's always nice to get a perspective that you don't have, because, they've lived a life that we haven't seen or that we haven't known. So their perspective is always very interesting, especially for someone like me who's still young and still learning.
What is the intergenerational clash the most on?
I think, for anyone who's seen our podcast, you can see that every episode is a clash. Every episode is a disagreement or a discussion. I think, surprisingly, there isn't a clash. Like, though we are very different in our ways of how we are as people, we actually have very similar values. And I think more than anything, I think that defines who I am. I think it's the values that I was brought up with. And they're a very specific set of values that both sides of my family have instilled in us.
If you had to put words to those values, what words would you use?
I think the first thing that we've kind of been grown up around has been a lot of family and respect. I think respect is something that is at the heart of who we are as people. I think whether it's my grandparents to the youngest members in our family, my cousin and my brother, we all have a lot of respect, not just for each other and not just for people, but also for what we do and the work that we do and, where we come from. I think that is a word that I think each and every single member of the family lives by and abides by. Which is...
I'll tell you what really leaps out is how, even though you are from the film industry and the world of business, you're all extremely well-mannered. And somewhere there, I see the influence of Jaya Bachchan, who seems like the sternest, strongest matriarch that a family could have. Somewhere like, and I love Jaya. I love her. I have so much respect for her, and we'll get to her in a moment. But there is something about that sort of very proper conduct that really leaps out and makes you all very different.
I think, for us, typically. It's like a bare minimum, right? As human beings, that you conduct yourself a certain way.
So where did that come from?
I think, honestly, she plays a large part. My grandfather plays a large part. On my father's side of the family, my dadi was also a very, very, very powerful matriarch, a very strong woman, somebody who, we all really looked up to and loved. Someone who's also inspired my entrepreneurial journey a lot, because she was a businesswoman herself, and she started her own business, and she always advocated for me as a young girl. She always said that you should always work and be financially independent. So those were a lot of values that I grew up around also. But I don't think that there's one individual who enforces it. I think it's something that we all just understand that, okay, this is how we are as a family. And I think all of us have very similar mannerisms in how we talk to people, or how we are at home, or how we are at work. And I think that's all come from watching each other do it on so many occasions. Like, I've grown up watching my father and my dadi and, my father's side of the family, more in the business context, approach their work. And then I've seen my nani and my nana and my mamu and, my mom and everyone also approach their work. And though two very different fields and two very different professions, I think the commonality, like I said, is just a lot of respect and gratitude for what they do. And I think that's what makes us all the way we are.
I'll come to your, to the many hats that you wear in a moment. But I was just listening to you and I was thinking, your grandfather took the plunge in politics first and then left to never return to it again.
Yeah.
And your grandmother, Jaya Bachchan, has really stayed the course.
Yeah.
And she stayed the course with full flamboyance and lack of apology.
Yes.
Her speeches are always viral. And the most interesting thing about Jaya Bachchan is that she never sees herself through the lens of other people. She is so completely herself. She says what she thinks, she calls a spade, and she doesn't give a damn. Now, when, I'm sure you've had these conversations around the dining table about the irony of the fact that it was Amitabh Bachchan who first got into politics, but Jaya who stayed.
I think if you talk to her about her life, though she, has also worn many hats, not just in her professional career, as, in her personal capacity as well, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a sister. And I think if you talk to her, she's always been a very patriotic person. And she's always told me that, growing up, her dream was to join the army. That's what she actually wanted to do. Yeah. And she's spoken about this many times. Like, it's something that she's always wanted to do was, fight for her country and, do what she could to make her country better and, to help the people in her country. So I think that is the perfect hat that she wears now as, in the political sphere. I think she is someone who has always wanted to do that. And I think at this point in her life, she's seen so much, she's lived through so much that I think she's now at a point where she feels that she wants to give that back. Because she says that, I got a lot from, my country. I got a lot of love, I got a lot of opportunity. And, having seen and lived through all of that, it's now my time to kind of give back. So I think it's great to see her, do something that she enjoys doing, that she loves doing. And, she's, like you said, somebody who's very unfiltered, very honest. Yeah. And I think that's what is required, when you look at politics today or, any profession.
Do you follow her parliament speeches?
I do, yes. We all do. When I'm in Delhi, I go and stay with her. So she'll always tell me about her day and she'll always talk about, how her day has gone or what she's talked about or what she's going to talk about. And I think even if you see a lot of her speeches and a lot of what she speaks on is very relevant and related to women, and that's something that has inspired me a lot, because she talks a lot about the well-being of women, protecting women, the safety of women. And I think that's something that she's spoken to me a lot. And that's also inspired a lot of what I do because I've seen her fight for that. I've seen her advocate for that. And I think that's something that should never stop.
Women, as you know, and you work so much with gender, get caricatured, trolled. Sometimes social media can be toxic enough to be abused. Whether it is your grandmother or whether it's you or your mother, I'm sure you've had to deal with your own share of that. How have you reconciled to living in the constant public eye, seeing maybe people you love and care about being memed, being spoken of badly? Do you block those comments? Do you tell yourself, I'm just not going to read the comments? How do you cope with it?
So for me, it's a very different approach because I have actively made a choice to be in the public eye through the work that I do. I host a podcast. I also run a non-profit which works for the welfare and being of women.
Project Naveli.
Yes. And so that is something that I have chosen actively as a career choice, that I want to do this. I want to do this for the betterment of the world around me and especially for the women around me. So for me, I think as somebody who is public facing, who's especially in the development sector where you do work for people, it's extremely important for me to be receptive of what people have to say about my work. I don't take it in a bad way. I try to look at it in a very constructive manner.
What's the cruelest or meanest thing that you've read about yourself?
The internet is all things great and all things bad. There are two sides to it. And of course, there are sometimes comments that you'll see about yourself or your appearance. But I think for me, it's more about my work because that's what I put out the most. I don't put a lot of my personal stuff out.
So you'll engage with the stuff that relates to
my work.
Maybe, escorts or Project Naveli or campaigns that you're associated with. But if it's about how you look or, your personal life or your family, you will not engage with that.
No, because for me, the platform is being used to share what I'm doing in a professional capacity. So, and I don't really put out a lot about my family or like personal
I know,
stuff,
but your family, I remember your mom once saying to me, look, it's a fishbowl, right? It's a fishbowl. And everybody has an opinion on the outside of that fishbowl looking in. And you're young, you're human. I mean, there must be moments when,
Of course, you do read things and you do feel
yeah,
bad, and of course it does affect you, especially more than when it's said about you. It affects you the most when it's said about your loved ones and your
Yeah.
family or your friends, or people that you really care for. But I think that we all understand and know that this is a life that we've all chosen. We're all actively choosing to be here in front of the public and do what we can in our own capacity,
Yeah.
whether it's through a movie or whether it's through a book, whether it's through a non-profit, to do something for people. So I think that the joy that we all get from just simply doing that far outweighs the sadness or the pain or the insecurity that you feel, of course, when reading all of these things. So I think for us, it's always about the joy and the gratitude of being able to still go out there and make movies or write books or, run a business that allows us to keep going and not focus on the negative sides of it.
So let's talk about the many hats that you're presently wearing and sometimes juggling. So you're completing a management course at IIM Ahmedabad, which is what, a hybrid?
It's a blended postgraduate program. So it's 2 years full time, a blend between on campus and online classes.
Has it been tough?
Of course, it's been tough. I think anyone who's done an MBA, and especially from IIM Ahmedabad, can tell you it's definitely challenging, but it's been a great experience going back to school. I'm still adjusting to having give exams again after 6 years of not being in a classroom. So it's a great experience. And I mean, I think for me, the best part of this, of course, I have the greatest professors, the curriculum is amazing, but I would say that the best part of this entire experience are my batchmates and the friendships that I've made in the last 1 year. The things that I've learned from them is far more than I've learned inside the classroom, because they are the most incredible people that I have had.
And also from a very different background, I guess, mixed, varied backgrounds.
Very, different all around the country, from different fields, from different areas of work and expertise and different ages. And I think it's been one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life so far, just being able to be around people that are so dedicated to what they're doing.